quiet countryside morning was suddenly broken by urgent, frantic barking. A golden retriever mom, her fur matted and her eyes wide with fear, ran in circles near an empty dirt road. Every few seconds she stopped, looked around desperately, and then sprinted toward the nearby woods, barking as if pleading for someone to follow. Then, out of the mist, an elderly man walking with a cane paused. He squinted at the panicked dog, sensing something was terribly wrong. The dog sprinted toward him, barking, spinning, and darting back toward the trees, desperation in every move. Asterisk golden retrievers are known for their gentle and loyal nature. But this mother dog wasn't just loyal, she was terrified. Her pup was in danger, somewhere out of sight. She needed human help to save her baby. The man hesitated for a moment, confused but concerned, and then instinctively followed the dog into the woods. He didn't know it yet, but this simple walk would turn into a life-or-death rescue mission that neither he nor the mother dog would ever forget. Asterisk, the early morning countryside was wrapped in a quiet fog. Dew clung to the grass, and a thin mist rolled over the dirt road that wound between the fields and patches of forest. It was the kind of morning when the world felt still, as if it was holding its breath. But that silence was suddenly broken. Sharp, frantic barking echoed through the air, bouncing off the trees and startling the birds into flight. It wasn't the casual bark of a dog greeting the morning. It was urgent, desperate. The kind of sound that made your chest tighten before you even knew why. An elderly man, carrying a small bag of feed and leaning on his cane, paused in the middle of the path. His eyes scanned the road ahead, squinting. Through the thin mist, then, out from the side of the road, a golden retriever emerged. Her golden fur was damp and tangled with bits of leaves. Her eyes were wide with panic, and her tail was low, flicking rapidly. She didn't approach him, the way most friendly dogs would. Instead, she barked once, high and sharp, then darted toward the forest, only to stop and whirl around to face him again. The man froze for a moment, unsure. The dog barked again, spinning in frantic circles, then dashed a few paces into the woods before returning to the edge of the road. Her movements were a mix of pleading and insistence, as if she were saying, "Follow me, please. It's urgent." The man had lived in the countryside long enough to understand animals better than most. This wasn't aggression, and it wasn't random. This was a mother in distress. He glanced around. There was no one else in sight. No houses nearby. No other dogs. Only the soft morning mist and the sound of the dog's quivering, desperate whimpers between barks. "All right, girl. I'm coming," he muttered softly, adjusting his cane and stepping off the dirt road into the brush. The forest was damp and uneven, twigs snapping underfoot and wet leaves clinging to his boots. The dog wasted no time. She sprinted ahead, stopped, to look back at him, then darted forward again. Every so often, she let out a sharp bark or a pained whimper, her golden coat flashing in and out of the mist. The man's heart pounded not from fear of the dog, but from a rising sense of uneasy suspense. Something was very wrong. As he followed, he noticed the dog's body language. Her ears were pinned back, and her breathing was ragged. She wasn't just scared, she was terrified for someone else. The deeper they went, the quieter the forest seemed to become, as if the trees themselves were holding their breath. The man's senses sharpened, each sound amplified. The crunch of leaves under his boots, the drip of condensed fog from branches, the rapid panting of the mother dog. Every few steps, she would pause and glance back at him, her eyes full of urgency, before bounding ahead again. The man could feel it in his chest. Now this was a rescue mission, even if he didn't yet know what he would find. A minute felt like an hour. The forest floor grew uneven, with roots snaking across the path and small gullies where rainwater had carved the earth. The man nearly stumbled once, catching himself on a branch. But the dog didn't wait. She was locked in her single-minded mission. Then, without warning, she stopped dead in her tracks. She turned toward him and barked 3 sharp, panicked barks. Her paws scratched at the ground, and she gave a high-pitched whimper that twisted his gut. She ran a few paces forward, then circled back, repeating the motion, as if begging him to hurry. The man's chest tightened. His mind raced with possibilities. Was it a trap? A snare? A creek where something fell in? But more than fear, he felt a surge of empathy and responsibility. There was no mistaking it now. This was a mother trying to save her child. He tightened his grip on his cane and pushed forward, his steps faster now. Branches scraped his arms as he followed the desperate golden flash weaving through the trees. The suspense in his chest built with every step, his heart thudding harder against his ribs. In that moment, the forest felt like a living thing, its mist curling like fingers around the trunks, the silence pressing in. Every instinct in him screamed that he was close to a critical discovery, one that would explain the dog's heartbreaking cries. And somewhere ahead, faint but distinct, he thought he heard it, a tiny, pitiful whimper, a sound so soft and broken. It barely rose above the whisper of the trees. The man froze for half a second, his breath catching. His eyes met the mother dog's, and she whined. Pawing the ground urgently, she had found him. She had led him this far. And whatever waited ahead in the shadows of the misty forest would soon reveal why this mother was fighting so desperately for help. Asterisk the faint. Fragile whimpering carried through the cold morning air, barely reaching the man's ears. He froze mid-step, heart skipping, and turned his head toward the sound. The golden retriever mom whined, her body trembling as she pawed at the wet ground. Ears perked and eyes pleading with him to follow. Slowly, carefully, he pushed past the last line of underbrush and entered a small, hidden clearing in the woods. Sunlight tried to break through the mist, but most of the clearing was shadowed and damp, littered with fallen branches and leaves from the recent storm. Then he saw it in the middle of the clearing. A tiny golden puppy lay trapped, its back leg wedged between two thick broken branches and tangled in a mess of old rusted wires that someone had carelessly left behind. The puppy was shivering violently, letting out soft, pitiful cries that sounded like whispers in the still forest. The man's chest tightened at the sight. For a split second, he felt a mix of anger and sorrow, at the cruel negligence that had left this place littered with dangerous debris, and sorrow for the fragile life trembling before him. The mother dog whimpered louder now, circling the puppy, but careful not to step on it. She nudged the man with her nose, then pawed at the trapped branch, pleading for him to act. Her entire body radiated fear and hope, tail low and quivering. He dropped to his knees beside the puppy. The cold dampness of the forest floor seeped through his pants, but he didn't care.
Ice.
His hands trembled as he reached for the branch, then stopped. The wires were tight around the puppy's leg, biting into the fur and skin. If he pulled the branch too quickly or clumsily, he might injure the tiny pup further. He took a steadying breath. Easy now. It's okay, little one, he whispered, his voice soft and low, as if speaking to a frightened child. The puppy whimpered again, flinching slightly at the sound of his voice. Its eyes were wide, glassy, and scared, and it gave a faint twitch. Of its tail, as if sensing help was finally here, the man used his cane to push one of the heavier branches aside, giving him better access to the wires. His fingers were stiff from the cold and the dampness, but he worked carefully, sliding them under the rusted metal. Each twist and tug was delicate, deliberate. The mother dog hovered nearby, pacing in tiny, frantic circles. She let out short, sharp barks whenever he paused, as if urging him to hurry, hurry, hurry. Her eyes never left her baby. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the first wire loosened. He gently uncoiled it from the puppy's leg, revealing a small, red indentation where the metal had dug into its skin. The man's heart ached at the sight. "You're going to be okay," he murmured again, more to himself than the pup. With the wire free, he braced himself against the forest floor and lifted the heavy branch, just enough to slide the puppy's leg out from the tangle. The puppy gave a soft, startled yelp as it was freed, but immediately wriggled toward its mother, who licked its face and ears frantically. The man sat back, exhaling in relief. He noticed the puppy's leg was trembling, but not visibly broken. It could stand, though wobbly, and the warmth of its mother pressed against its side seemed to give it courage. He carefully picked up the small, shivering pup and wrapped it in the thick flannel shirt he wore beneath his coat, leaving just its tiny face exposed. The puppy was light far to lightened. He could feel the fragile heartbeat against his chest. The mother dog sniffed the wrapped pup, then looked up at the man with eyes that seemed to glisten with gratitude. For a moment, the forest felt silent. Again, but this time, it wasn't tense. It was a fragile moment of relief and connection. But the man knew the danger wasn't over. The puppy was cold and weak. It needed warmth and care quickly. He glanced at the debris, the wires, the fallen branches, and the rusted traps left by careless humans. Anger simmered quietly beneath his relief, knowing this had almost cost a life. With the puppy secured against his chest, he rose to his feet slowly, gripping his cane in his other hand. The mother dog trotted beside him, brushing against his leg now and then, never taking her eyes off the bundle in his arms as they made their way back through the forest. The man realized that this wasn't just a rescue, it was a silent promise. He would see this puppy to safety. He would not let this fragile moment of survival end in tragedy. The mist began to lift slightly as they neared the dirt road, and a ray of weak sunlight broke through the trees, glinting off the golden fur of the mother and her tiny pup. The danger had passed, but the journey to safety was only just beginning. The forest began to thin as the elderly man carefully made his way back toward the dirt road. The tiny golden puppy secured against his chest, wrapped in his warm flannel shirt. Its shivering had slowed, but every now and then a soft whimper rose from the bundle, tugging at his heart. Beside him, the golden retriever mom never strayed more than a few steps away. She alternated between trotting ahead to guide the way and circling back to sniff and nudge her baby, her tail low but wagging gently now in cautious relief. The man's boots squelched in the damp earth, and each step felt heavier than the last. He was tired and his knees ached, but he held the fragile pup with a protective tenderness that pushed him forward. He knew that every minute counted. The puppy needed warmth, food, and a careful check to ensure its leg wasn't seriously injured. When they finally emerged from the tree line, the quiet countryside road stretched before them, kissed by the pale morning light. A soft breeze stirred the wet grass along the edges, and for the first time since this ordeal began, the man felt a wave of relief wash over him. But the mission wasn't over. He paused to adjust the flannel around the pup, using his body heat to keep it warm. The mother dog pressed her face against his leg, her breath coming in short bursts, as if asking silently what would happen next. The man crouched down slowly and let the mother sniff and lick her baby through the fabric. "You're safe now, both of you," he said softly, his voice breaking the morning stillness. The mother dog gave a soft, almost grateful whine, nudging his arm with her nose.
Ow.
It was as if she understood, as if she knew this human had done what she alone could not. He started down the road toward his small farmhouse, which wasn't far. With every step, he noticed how the mother dog's posture had changed. Her panic had melted into cautious hope. She still walked close, glancing up at him often, but now her movements carried a sense of relief. When they reached his home, he carefully carried the puppy inside, moving slowly to avoid startling the mother. He set the tiny bundle on a soft blanket near the fireplace, which still held some of the night's lingering warmth. The puppy twitched its ears and let out a small sigh. Finally feeling safe, the mother dog immediately curled around her baby, licking its face and ears with gentle devotion. The puppy squirmed closer, tucking its nose into her fur, and the man felt his chest tighten with emotion. This was pure love, a bond that didn't need words. Story unfolding silently before his eyes. He fetched a bowl of fresh water and a small portion of soft food from his pantry. The mother lapped at the water cautiously, then nudged her baby, as if encouraging it to drink. The pup was weak, but it managed a few small laps of water, its tiny tongue flicking against the surface. The man sat nearby, resting his aching knees and watching the reunion unfold. The crackling of the fireplace and the soft sounds of the mother tending to her pup filled the quiet room. It was a moment of stillness and gratitude, the kind that settles deep into your heart. As he watched them, couldn't help but think of the fragile line between life and death. If he hadn't heard the barking, if he had ignored the frantic plea, this moment might never have happened. That thought made his throat tighten. Hours later, after the puppy had rested and the mother had finally relaxed, he wrapped them in a blanket and drove them to the nearest veterinary clinic. The vet examined the puppy carefully, cleaning the small wounds on its leg and confirming that no bones were broken. The pup would recover with rest, warmth, and care. When they returned home, the sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in soft oranges and pinks. The mother and her baby curled together by the fireplace, breathing in unison, safe at last. The man sat back in his chair, exhaustion and contentment washing over him. He had witnessed something extraordinary that Dea's silent plea answered. A life saved and a bond unbroken. In the days that followed, he watched the puppy grow stronger. Its whimpers became playful yips, and the mother dog, once frantic and desperate, wagged her tail freely, her eyes bright with trust. Every evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the man would glance at the pair curled together in the glow of the fireplace and feel a quiet sense of fulfillment. He knew he had done something that truly mattered. Moral of the story: love and compassion need no language. A mother's instinct to protect her young transcends species. And sometimes it takes just one act of kindness to turn a desperate cry into a story of survival. When we choose to listen to the voiceless and vulnerable, we hold the power to change lives, both theirs and ours.